What's good, YouTube? Cardfight King here, AQUA Life Baby. You already know. Today, guys, I'm going to bring you an update to my Chaos Universe Chaos Breaker deck. Now, I have been working on this deck a bit, and after the tournament where I didn't do well in, I got my face bit in, and it opened my eyes to a few things and things that I definitely needed to change about this deck. I decided to make those changes. I decided to do a lot more research into how other Chaos Breaker players are building the deck, what they're talking about certain cards, how they're playing the deck thing, just went back to the drawing board with this deck, and really hit the books, for lack of better words, on the deck, trying to get myself better with it. And I was talking with a few players, and I was listening to one of my boy Gabe down on Paris 21's videos, and he was talking about how some cards, the pros of some cards outweigh the cons of cards, such as running Karma Collector in a Revenger Abyss build. Yes, it's not a Revenger card, so you can't sack it off if you're in that situation with Abyss, but the value of the unflip that Karma Collector provides, heavily benefits the deck more so than its con of not being a Revenger, something like that, for example. So with this deck, I have been working on, been working on that, and I took that took that to heart and decided to run some more cards involving more risk. But I believe that the pros of the cards that I've chosen to run have a better upside than they do a downside. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, guys, so the starter is still Carbon. Carbon, to me, is the best starter for him now. I know some people are playing Dusttail Unicorn, and I'm going to be testing out Dusttail Unicorn, seeing how he is versus Carbon, but I think right now Carbon is the best starter. He's literally a free colony maker as long as your opponent has a locked unit. He's just a very, 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 very useful, very good card for the deck, and I think you should definitely be running him as your starter. But if you run Dusttail Unicorn, let me know how he's been running for you in comparison to Carbon. But I like Carbon just because he's a free colony maker, really. Obviously, you run four heal triggers. You got to running all Star Vaders again, keeping consistency, running these Star Vader cards, and then we're running 12 crits, 8 just regular Star Vader crits, and then 4 of the Paradigm Shift Dragon. This crit trigger is amazing, guys. If you have like a Star Vader Vanguard and your opponent has a lock card on their board, you can send him back into, you can call him to rear guard, send him back to the deck, and lock an opponent's back row card for free. So literally, he's literally just a free lock on an opponent's back row card as long as they have a card locked in the field, and he's a crit trigger that goes back into the deck, meaning that's another crit trigger that we can actually hit multiple times. I do use his effect often if I need to. I usually like to focus on locking the front row than using his ability. Very good card. Now the deck runs 12 crit because this deck moves very fast, and the way I have it, I'm trying to be a little bit more aggressive with the retiring and drawing and things of that nature, due to the cards I have in the build. But 12 crits works out for the deck very, very well. This deck definitely needs all the pressure because this is a control deck. This deck is really pure control, and you need to have and since the deck, it does control the opponent, you're not expending too many cards from your hand. Your opponent is sitting there with a locked field and a sad face. You need to be able to pressure them as much as possible, as hard as possible, and 12 crit is the best trigger lineup to complement the aggressive control nature of this deck. All right, on to grade 1. Alright, guys, and for grade 1, we are running 4 copies of Star Vader Prometheum. He's not the Unflipping Perfect Guard. I know some people do run the Unflipping Perfect Guard Cosmo Wreath, but and I'm going to be testing him out because, again, I know that the pros of that card do outweigh the cons in some situations, but I like Prometheum because he's a Star Vader, and since we're running Zinc, I don't want to run a lot of non-Star Vaders in the build, so I wanted to keep it 100 with him, kind of 100 with him, and run Prometheum. But he's been working out pretty fine, very, very fine. 3 copies of Zinc. I went down to 3 copies of Zinc. Mostly because I needed to make room for other cards. But Zinc is still a card that I would run at 3 to 4 copies. So what she does is, if you have a Chaos Vanguard, you get to throw her into the Soul Charge 2, and then unflip 2 damage. Very good card. Gives us back 2 Counterblast and helps fill the Soul for Chaos Breaker. And again, if with Cosmic, you do run the risk of, using her ability to Soul Charge 2 from the deck, and if you Soul Charge a trigger, then that's a dead card in the Soul. Then I'm running 3 copies of Palladium. I was originally running Volt Line in the deck. As a matter of fact, the original build had him. Then I switched to Volt Line. Now I went back to Palladium. From the playtesting, I figured that the way I want to play this deck, the way that I've been playing the deck, I wanted to add in, more aggression when I'm going for Chaos Breaker plays, because I do like Volt Line, but the problem that I was running into when I was playing Volt Line was that there are times when I want a card to unlock so I can Soul Blast, draw 1, and regain advantage if I've lost advantage for that. Plus, I do like the combo that he does with Chaos Breaker. Throw him into the Soul, keep a card locked, and still draw a card from Chaos Breaker's ability. Yes, he does cost a counterblast, but again, we have cards like Zinc, in there to help, mitigate and manage your counterblast. It's just a matter of, having good counterblast management in this deck. And I like the plays that you can make with Palladium more so than I do currently with Volt Line. I might be going back to testing out Volt Line right now, but so far I've been liking the plays that Palladium makes a little bit more. I'm running 2 copies of the Limit Break Enabler. He's usually the first target you get if you don't have him with Carbon, because when you lock an opponent's card with Chaos Breaker skill or Chaos Bringer skill, you need to have him on board so that you can counterblast 1 and ride Chaos Breaker if you have Chaos Bringer and you did lock another card, so you can be on Chaos Breaker early, because being on Chaos Bringer after the turn you use his ability really kind of sucks. So you want to have him on the board for that, and for Chaos Breaker, so you can start your drawing, your drawing and your advantage building from the get-go, which is why we're running 2 copies of the Limit Break Enabler. And then I'm running 2 copies of the Stride Enabler. Like I said, guys, this is the only non-Star Vader card in the build, and the reason why I'm running 2 of him is just to help with striding. I'm not running too many copies, so I don't run into an issue of soul charging him or having to ride him really often, but it's to help with striding with the build, because I'm not always drawing into my 3s, and I don't want to sit there and discard like double photon and things of that nature. So I'm running these 2 to help alleviate that and help me be able to stride a little bit more. You're not, with striding in this deck, you're only going to be striding 2 universes, 2 of this other card I'm going to show you guys, and then you have Big Crunch. So that's about 2, and then that's about 5 times. And so I think this is a pretty nice. I think this is a pretty nice card to have in the deck for that, but only at 2. If you don't want to play him, I understand. Some people play more than him. I think 2 is a very nice number for him to keep up with, to keep the consistency of Zinc not soul charging him that often, and you not having to ride him, and then him being a dead card in your soul for Chaos Breaker. All right, on to grade 2. All right, so grade 2 is fairly simple, guys. 4 copies of Photon. I don't know why or when he went up to $25 a piece. I mean, the trial deck version went up to $25 a piece, but good God. So, 4 Photon. If you have a Star Vader Vanguard, your opponent has a lock card. When you call him to the board, you get to lock a unit for free. Photon is too good in this deck. He should be played at 4. This guy is an amazing card, and yeah, he's probably one of the best Link Joker cards to come out, best rear guards. 4 copies of Disorder Star Vader Iron. So what he does is, if you have a Chaos Vanguard, he's an 11k attacker, and when you call him to the board and you have a Chaos Vanguard and your opponent has a locked unit, you can counterblast 1 and lock another unit. So he's pretty much, if you have a Chaos Vanguard, if you have a Chaos Vanguard, he becomes a Photon for a counterblast, but he's an 11k attacker in exchange. So very nice card. I don't always use his effect, but 4 of him and 4 of Photon is very, very good for the deck, because when you're on Chaos Bringer, when you're on Chaos Bringer, you want to have one of these two cards in here so that you can be able to lock another card on the opponent's board and move on from there. And so you can do the limit break and ride Chaos Breaker and have fun. And then I run 3 copies of Colony Maker. Colony Maker is literally like the sword me of the deck. When you call to the board, you have Starvader Vanguard. Your opponent has a locked unit on the board. Not Starvader, but as long as you have a Link Trigger Vanguard and your opponent has a locked card on the board, you get to use her ability Counterblast 1, Superior Call, a grade 1 or less Starvader from your deck. You can Superior Call the crit trigger. This in the crit trigger back to lock something for free. And that's something that that is definitely something that you can do with it. So she does make a lot of plays within the deck. I have her at 3 because I think that Iron and Photon have a little bit more value, especially in the early game. But Colony Maker is definitely a very, very good card for the deck. She helps set up Zinc. She helps set up Zinc. She sets up your Limit Break Enabler. She sets up Palladium. She's just a very, very strong card in the deck. All right, on to grade 3. All right, guys, and for grade 3, I went down to 2 copies of Chaos Bringer. I may or may not go back up to 4 copies of Chaos Bringer. I need to see how I need to get a lot more testing with the other card I'm running. But Chaos Bringer is a nice card. He's a Chaos Vanguard, so he does work with the Chaos support within the deck. When you ride him, you get to Counterblast 1, lock an opponent's back row when you ride him, and then at Limit Break 4, you can Counterblast 1. If your opponent has 2 or more locked cards on their field, you get to search your deck for Chaos Breaker Dragon and Superior, ride it in stand. So like I said, guys, that's why I think Carbon is very important. Getting Photon and Iron early game is important. And getting to your limit breaking neighbor, so you will be able to use his ability so you can get onto Chaos Breaker as early as possible, because Chaos Breaker is the main Vanguard of this deck. It's the cards you want to be on. He is the advantage engine. He is the first round draft pick. He is the leader of our Link Joker team, so you want to make sure that you're on him when you need to be. I'm running 2 copies of Garnet Star, though. I'm also running 2 copies of Garnet Star. He is probably the best floatable Legion in Link Joker. But the reason why I'm running him is because, one, he does Legion with Photon, so I don't need to run. So if I was running another Starvader Legion, then I had to cut grade 2 space, and it would have been But he does Legion with Photon, and when you Legion, you get to just lock 2 cards for free. But the reason why I'm running him in the deck is because when if you're in one of those grind games, Garnet Star is definitely there to help you out with that grind game, putting triggers, putting another copy of himself back into the deck, so you're not decking out, getting off that nice free lock, and as well as building up additional soul if you're going to ride Chaos Breaker over him. And sometimes if you do have to ride him, yes, you can't use Chaos Universe, but you can then start playing back and go back to the Legion format, start playing the Legion format, and then once you start building up advantage in your hand from his abilities and whatnot, then you can go into Chaos Breaker. It's all around playing around his ability and being able to adapt and change your play style with it. So I've been really liking Garnet Star, how he's been playing so far. He saves me in a couple games with his Legion ability, getting off some free locks. When I found myself out of Counterblast, I was able to ride him, get some free locks off, and then when I was able to get my Chaos stuff back and start doing the things I need to do with that, he was there to provide extra soul and whatnot. So he's a very nice card. I do like him. Like I said, I might go back to Chaos Bringer for certain things, but he's actually, but Chaos Garnet Star is definitely good, and in the mirror match, which is something that I do play against at my locals a lot. We have about 2 to 3 players who do play Chaos Breaker, and one of them top, both of them, generally top a lot of the time. One of them is my boy, one of them is my other boy from Virginia. So Chaos, this guy really helps in those long drawn out Chaos Breaker matches and whatnot. And then 4 copies of Chaos Breaker Dragon, obviously the boss of the deck. Very strong card. Once again, he came back. He's very strong in this format. So what he do? So his limit break ability is when a card unlocks on your opponent's at the end of your opponent's turn, you can Soul Blast a Star Vader, kill that card, and draw a card. Very, very good effect. And then his act ability is you counterblast 1, discard a Star Vader from your hand, choose an opponent's card on their board, and lock it. Choose an opponent's rear guard and lock it. So yeah, he's the card that you definitely want to be on. He is the advantage engine of the deck. All right, on the Stride deck. All right, guys. So for my Stride deck, I'm obviously playing 4 copies of Chaos Universe. Yeah, Chaos Universe. I love this card to death. So what he does, he is actually probably one of the best strides. I think he's the best stride that Link Joker's got, but that's just me. So what he does is if you have a Chaos Heart, you can counterblast 1, Persona Flip, and take an opponent. Literally, your opponent chooses a card from their hand, calls it to any open rearguard circle that you choose, and it's locked. And all cards that are on the board that are locked are public knowledge. So if you call a card from your opponent's hand that's locked, you do get to see what it is because it is public knowledge. So yeah, he takes a card that he takes potential shielding, potential, whatever it is out of your opponent's hand, and forces them to call it to the board. So very, very good card. Great that he gets to minus a card out of our opponent's hand and give us a nice lock that we can then we can start using our card's abilities and playing around. Very, very good card. 2 copies of Big Crunch. Big Crunch is there just to Omega lock a column for a counter blast. It's a pretty nice card to use. I like him. There's not really too much of a better option. Link Jokers don't really have the best strides in the world, so there's not much, but he's still a very good, very decent stride. And then I'm playing 2 copies of Amnesty Messiah. Now, I do see some builds that play 1 Amnesty and 1 Judgment, because Judgment, if it hits, you get to lock, so it's pretty okay first stride if your opponent doesn't really have a board and you don't want to go into Universe too early. But the reason why I'm playing 2 copies of Amnesty in my build right now, guys, is because the mirror match. I want to have, the mirror match generally comes down to who has more amnesties than the opponent, and then who can time their amnesties better, things of that nature. And the reason with he's, if I'm not playing against a deck that needs amnesty, that I need amnesty against, you can use him as a first stride if you want to. So then you can use Chaos Breaker Universe's GB3 ability, whatever it is. Just use him as a vanilla stride, something like that. But I like amnesty. He's only in here because I want to have the better chance to have the upper leg in the Chaos Breaker mirror match, which is why I'm running 2 copies of Amnesty Messiah. I have seen some builds that run the Arrestor Messiah with Excelix and stuff, and that build to me is just it's the Japanese build. I think that build is just very inconsistent. It only works if you have an Amnesty Vanguard, which forces them to run these, and I'm just not a big fan of it. There's a lot of things that I think are wrong with that build, but that's just me. If you want to talk about it, we can talk about it in the comment section below. But yeah, 2 Amnesties for the mirror match, 2 Big Crunch, because Big Crunch on Mega Locks the column helps extend an extra turn of locks and getting off our effects and building advantage, and then Universe because he is our best stride. He steals cards out of the opponent's hand and forces them locked, unlocking our deck's abilities. All right, so that's been the deck profile, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be bringing you guys some discussion videos next and more Aqua Force combos. All right, Cardfight King, and I'm out. Peace.